This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to a sunny, beautiful afternoon in South Africa. As you can see, there are some big grey animals that are moving around in front of us. My name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Craig this afternoon, and it is very lovely to have you all join us aboard the largest safari vehicle in the world. And so we hope that you're going to have a wonderful afternoon with us as we explore the wilderness, and hope that you will ask lots and lots of questions on #SafariLive. Now, behind Craig is a very curious elephant that's just poking up behind him. I don't think Craig actually even noticed that there was an ellie right behind the car. So there's a nice big herd that has come from Galago Pan, where they've been drinking, and they're slowly now just meandering through the bush feeding. And it's so wonderful to have ellies back on the property. We had a rather dry patch when it came to ellies over the past week, and it's really, really good to have these guys back in the area and moving about once again. And my plan is probably to spend quite some time with these guys this afternoon. I thoroughly enjoy being in amongst elephants, and so it seems like the right and fitting thing to do. The interesting thing about these ellies is that they are right at camp, and it's why we actually found them. We are no more than, I would say, 2 to 300 meters from the final control building, which is straight in that way. So there we go, there's final control. We had some of the guys walking around there a little bit earlier. You can see the ellies are all about the place, so it's quite nice. Just goes to show how lucky we are to live here in Djumo, because we have animals that literally walk around us and live around us all the time. It's a wonderful thing to be in a place when you walk outside of your work area and there is all of a sudden a big grey elephant in front of you. It's absolutely very pleasant. John, you say there is an elephant in the room. Yes, there is. This is the one time where it is not just a saying, but rather a reality. Now, hopefully the elephants don't actually go deeper into the FC building, because there's nice new trees that have been planted there. They've put in a whole bunch of indigenous trees that, given a few years, will grow into beautiful, big, lovely examples of some of the more rarer trees that we get in this area. So things like Cape Ashes and pod mahoganies, which we don't see too many of here. And if the ellies smell and sniff those out, given that it is winter, they will absolutely destroy all of those trees. So as much as it's nice to have them on the fringes, let's hope that they don't go in there, because otherwise all the hard work of some of the guys recently is going to be undone, and there will be death and destruction to many a young little tree. Right, well, we're going to sit with our elephant herd. Like I say, we're going to watch them as they destroy the sickle bush that is around us. And while we do that, it sounds like Sydney's off to a rollicking start of his own and wants to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the beginning of my game drive. I am Sydney, and I am not traveling alone this afternoon. I am with David. David is my camera operator, and my plan for this afternoon, it was not that difficult. It was quite an easy plan. It's just that I've already executed my plan. It was looking for the cats. I've already got Hosanna as I'm talking to you now, but after this sighting, I'll be looking for some other general game. So for your questions and comments, you can follow us on Twitter, #SafariLive, and you can also find us on YouTube chat stream. Hosanna is very much relaxed at the moment, but when we got here, he was sleeping completely flat. So, but now I can see he's up and running, and hello again to everyone. So look at Hosanna trying to pick up the information and getting updates. This cat was sleeping flat when we got here, but I'm glad that just by the nick of time, the beginning of the game drive, Hosanna is starting to show up some activities. Look at that, moving, showing that it's not sleeping anymore. We are so very lucky. So by this time of the day, beautiful cats such as these ones, they prefer to just rest, and they normally do what he is doing now late in the afternoons. Look at that pink nose. So the wind is too much, but the wind is coming towards Hosana at this stage. I'm sure Hosana can be able to detect what is on the northern side and what is on the western side. Look at that. King Say, I am not very sure in terms of the whole statistics of leopards in South Africa, as the leopards are very much shy. To see them is not very easy. We are just very much lucky here in Djuma Game Reserve. Other areas, cats such as leopards are difficult to find. I used to work for the South African National Parks, and I was based in Marakele National Park, which is not very far away from Johannesburg. And there, for me to see the cats, it was very much difficult. And in some areas, the owners, sometimes they think they are not there anymore. These cats, they can even extend territories, even cross to some of the neighboring areas. We do have a lot of leopards in South Africa at this stage, and hunting of leopards at this stage, it is not allowed. Look at that. Hosana is excited. There is something fascinating. Oh, yes, there's been some impalas. I can see them on that side. So Hosana is very much excited. There's some impalas. I can see them going down towards that side. Maybe that is what excited Hosana earlier on. So let me just see what Hosana is thinking. But the tail is telling me that Hosana is interested on something. So I normally concentrate on the tail. Miss Anomalous, the bellies at the moment, Hosana, I could not manage to read, but it's not that very full. I think he might be a little bit hungry at the moment. So, but I will again check nicely when he's moving towards the eastern side. So he's just there now trying to be camouflaged behind the tree, and I don't want to spoil this hunt. I will just remain here where I am now and see his intentions. There is he moving. It seems like Hosana gave up. But where he is now, he can see those impalas. They're right on the road going down that side. I didn't see them. He's shown them. He saw them before me. So now he's just very relaxed by this side of the tree where there's some little bit of shade. Look at that. Something surprised Hosana. He's not feeling safe as well. You can see predators are predators, but they also think about their own safety. Look at that. You can see the wind is blowing. Now the wind is blowing towards where those animals are. I'm not too sure if those animals can be able to detect his presence from the sense of smell. So normally by this time of the day, they don't really perform hunting activities. So while I'm here with Hosana, I still have got my other colleague, James, has not yet introduced himself. Let's hear from James.
Now I'm introducing myself. I'm standing here in the valley of the Great Mlomati on my way down south to find Tundi, a 12-year-old leopardess. Tracks. My name is James Hendry, and I'm here on Sunday afternoon bushwalk. More often than not in the last little while, I have been on bushwalk on Sunday, which has been great fun. It has a nice sort of warm Sunday afternoon feel about it at the moment. Sébastien Rombi, the greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot in history, is on camera, and of course, let us not forget, in a, well, not new, but certainly first seen shirt. Today, Herbert Causer in Royal Navy Blue. I don't think you can have Royal Navy Blue. It's either Royal or Navy, but I'm not sure what that one is. Anyway, our plan today, like I say, is to head down towards the sort of central sections of Djuma, central south, and see if we can't find some sign of Thandi and her 9-month-old daughter, Tlalamba. Well, Sana is actually very close to here. You've just been with him and Sydney, and so we'll just quietly sort of sneak around and then move down towards the central parts. Quite a lot of bird activity around here, which is not particularly usual for the winter time, and I wanted to show you some arrow-marked babblers and some oxpeckers. You can see the babblers just hopping on the floor there, Seb. I don't know if you can see them. Just in the undergrowth there. Birding on foot, you'd think intuitively would be easier than in a car, but actually it isn't. It's easier from a vehicle. So those are the arrow-marked babblers. And if we just look down here, you can see the very thickly wooded banks of this dry riverbed. There's a lovely little breeze blowing now, making that sort of dry, warm winter air and rustling of the leafless trees. Mario, it's very simple to work out wind direction. You do this. And when your finger feels cold, you stop. That's where the wind's coming from. And you work out the direction. It's pretty simple here, Mario. It's almost always, interestingly, it's not southeast today. It's almost always coming from the southeast. Now, today, unusually, it's coming from the northwest. So that is quite strange. All you do is feel which way it's coming from, work out the direction, and you go for it. Yeah, it's no more complicated than that, really. It can swirl slightly, and if it does start to swirl, well, then I have me trusty ash bag in here, which is a sock. Many of you have seen the ash bag before, which is merely a sock filled with ash. And, well, are you ready, Seb? Mm-hmm. There you can see the air is blowing, well, actually, interestingly, in a slightly easterly direction now. It's all swirling all over the place. Love my? No, I'm afraid not. Haven't seen any cheetah for a while. We were expecting that mother and 2 cubs to come back this way. They were certainly heading this way about, it was almost a week ago now. They were heading back this way, but they seem to have turned and gone back towards the west. Perhaps that has something to do with the return of the Nkuhuma pride back here. Cheetah will generally try and avoid being anywhere around the dominant predators, especially lions. And there is some research from this area that suggests their distribution is almost entirely predictable from lion calls. So where there are lions calling, you will not find cheetahs. So perhaps the return of the Nkuhumas to the north here has sent them away. We're going to continue down this magnificent little game path in the middle of this dry riverbed, a game path made by elephants.
Well, good luck, James. I hope that you find Thandi and Tlalamba. I was going to head off in that direction myself before we bumped into these ellies. So once we're done with the ellies a little bit later, we'll probably go and give James a bit of a hand in that area and try and see if we can find the new Queen of Djuma. It's been a while since I've spent a long time with her, so I would really like to go and have a nice afternoon with Thandi and hopefully little Tlalamba as well. Would be very, very good. But our ellies are still doing what ellies do best, is feeding their way through the vegetation. Really interesting to watch them at the moment. Their diet is very varied. They're feeding off all kinds of different things, watching them go from bush willows to baby plants of varying descriptions. There's been a few leadwoods that have been eaten. So there's been all kinds of things that they've been going after. Also a bit of grass. There's been a few tubers that have been tried to be dug up. There was even a big fallen over tree that was pushed in our direction, which was very funny because she lifted this massive tree with thorns and all and was pushing it, and it looked as though it was going to land on our car. And when I say it was a fallen tree, it was not a small fallen tree. It was probably, I would say, maybe double the height of the vehicle. And I thought, well, this is not going to end well because it might hit the side of the car. But she just didn't give it enough force, and she pushed it and it got to the perpendicular, and then gravity took hold, but not in the way that she had intended. It took hold back towards her and ended up hitting her square in the forehead, which she didn't appreciate too much. Although she didn't really seem too phased, she kind of just threw it off to the side and then carried on with her day. But it was quite funny to watch because it did not go the way that she had envisaged it. Then after that, we had this little baby come along, and this little guy is probably the most relaxed baby elephant I think I've ever seen. At one point, it was about maybe 2 meters from the car, and Mom wasn't exactly that close, and this little one just fed its way right towards us. It didn't worry at all about coming near the car, which is quite strange. Generally, little babies, they're curious, but they don't get too close. Alicia, you say your day is perfect now. You've got, well, it's not the worst way to start a day, that's for sure. Start an afternoon. If a herd of elephants and a leopard within the first 2 minutes of our safari really is not bad at all. In fact, if you came out to Africa and had that in your first 2 minutes of safari, you would be considered very lucky. So it has been a wonderful start to our afternoon. I'm thoroughly enjoying the fact that we've got little Hosanna back at the camp. He must have been behind that dam all yesterday afternoon and this morning, and we just must have been missing him the whole time. I'm sure yesterday with those alarm calls it was him, but somehow managed to miss him. Now there's a female coming out in front of us that is heavily pregnant. Look at how swollen her abdomen is. That's amazing. So you can see, look at how she's bulging on the sides there around her hip areas. So that's very cool to see. Very swollen. I wonder how far she is from giving birth. It would be nice. Imagine we get a little baby elephant being born in the next few days. That would be quite cool. It's very seldom that you're going to catch an elephant giving birth. Most of the time they give birth at night for some odd reason. I don't know why that is, but it's generally that way. Maybe it's to do with the fact that they can feel like they're more undercover and that they have a little bit more peace and quiet. But I would think that giving birth at night would be a lot more dangerous with things like hyenas and lions and those sorts milling about. But maybe you'll find that they are aware of the fact that predators are around, and the whole herd will help just to protect this female as she gives birth. But very swollen tummy. Quite amazing how much it's protruding. So, Jake, yes, baby Ellies will suck their trunks quite regularly. You'll find that they put it in their mouth and they suck it quite a lot. And in fact, if you go to some of these elephant rehabilitation areas, you'll find that they actually, if you put your hand there, they suck on your hand quite regularly, and they'll put their own trunks in, and they'll suck each other's trunks a little bit. So they do a lot of that kind of thing. And why they do it, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's very similar to babies. It just, simulates the same motion or same behavior of suckling. I don't know, but it's an interesting behavior for sure. But how amazing is that? Now, Rexon has just gotten out and mobile, and I need to just quickly give him a update because I think Sydney's still learning the ropes with the game drive radio. Rex, there's a nice big herd of elephants just on the western side of Final Control, and then there's Hosanna at Gari Dam. So there we go. We just gave Rex a little update quickly, and that he can then get his safari planned. But while we sit with our Ellies for a while longer, thoroughly enjoying how relaxed this herd is. We're going to spend most of our afternoon, like I say, with them while it's still bright and sunny. And while we do that, let's send you back across to Sydney and Hosanna. And I wonder if he's gotten any closer to those impalas.
Hosanna decided to sleep at the moment. Unbelievable that Hosanna was so very much active, wanting to go and chase the impalas, but now Hosanna looks completely different, as if he's not the one who was that very active earlier on. But the behavior we're seeing now is normal, very normal to the cats. What we nearly saw when he was falling in love with the impalas, chasing the impalas, is something which is not normal, because normally they prefer to hunt when the sun is cool. But now the sun is you see, now he's interested again. Maybe there's something again. Have you seen how fast these cats are? He was like completely flat, and he woke up at very fast speed. Now he's aiming down there. So let me just try and see what he's aiming at. You can see that the fact that these cats are relaxed. Take care. I didn't get the question very well. I just hear that you're asking something to do with the whiskers. I am not too sure if the whiskers can grow throughout their lives, but the whiskers are very much important. They've got a very, very vital role, because if they don't have whiskers, it becomes very difficult for them to judge the space in between the branches and in between the stems. So when these animals are hunting, and when also moving around, they've got to be guided by their whiskers. Whiskers can be able to sense the space in between the bushes. So if you look at the hairs by the ears, you'll see that the ears are very much hairy inside. So those hairs, they are maybe assisting them in order to collect a lot of sound. The leopards can run very fast. They can go up to 94 kilometers per hour. So they can run at about 24 meters per second. So they can be able to jump, not too sure in terms of the meters, but they can run very fast and they can leap very high. Maybe he's going to show us if any of the prey comes nearby, we might see how fast these leopards can go, and the meters, how the gap in between their legs. I'm still going to be here looking at this cat, but while I'm here looking for the cat, James is busy looking for some of the smaller things. Let's see what James has got so far.
Every time I come along this little part of the reserve, walking with Herbert, he goes something like this: Esh maramfo, there's a big mamba here, which means you can't believe the size of the mamba that lives over here. And there are about 5 or 6 points around the reserve that Herbert says that at, and this is one of them. And that there, roughly, I'd say about, let's say 1.5 inches, is the width of this mamba's belly. So you can see my finger there. That probably means that this mamba is in the region of between 6 and 8 feet long. So he's a fairly long, fairly venomous snake. Well, very venomous snake. And he'll probably live somewhere. They are territorial, of course, so when he says that a mamba lives here, he does mean in these environs. And it could easily live, it's interesting, could easily live in this hole. Come over here, Seb. Obviously, if the mamba comes back off quite fast, right? Here's a hole. Now, I would have said that was a rodent hole. But I wouldn't say it strongly enough for me to put my hand down there. It looks like the hole of a gerbil, a bushveld gerbil. Yes, in fact it is. Jem, you say you. No, not you. Just a bit scary, but not you. Look at this. Can you see this stuff here? Yeah. That is from a rodent making a nest. So this rodent has cleared away a spot. I'm sure he's taken some of that down into his nest. And he'll be down there. I'm not going to poke him with my stick, but I'd be quite lucky that the mamba didn't discover him there. Very interesting. Okay, mambas, of course, would be hibernating I put it in inverted commas because I'm not convinced that's the right term for what they do in the winter here. Yes, they go to sleep for a while if it gets cold, but it's probably about 80 degrees today, which is very pleasant, and so they will be out and about looking for things like that poor little gerbil to eat. Let's go back to Tristan and his much larger things than gerbils.
Well, it's very, very cool that you guys have joined us right now because there's some really interesting behavior taking place. What you can see is a little baby elephant that's busy eating the dung of its mother. So we don't often get to see this at all, but it's very common in elephants. When the little babies, what they'll do is once the mother goes to the toilet, vital bacteria that they'll put into their stomach. So as they eat that, they're getting all kinds of things that are being added to their digestive system, which are going to help them digest the different things that they eat through their life. And it's vitally important that baby ellies do this. In fact, baby ellies that don't do this and don't get a chance to, if their mom dies before they get a chance to do this, are very, very seldom will actually survive because they don't get all the antibodies that they need and all the different types of bits of goodness, should we call it, that they need from that dung. But it's not often you see it at all. Normally you kind of watch them and they'll take maybe a little mouthful, but this little one has been feeding off it for a good 5 minutes or so. So I'm so glad that we got to see it. It's not something that I've seen in a very long time for this length, for the period that it's been doing it, for that length of time. It's very, very cool to see, and that little baby's benefiting. It sounds really gross, but it's very important for them to be able to do this and to be able to get all of the nutrients from it. So, Paula, you say, ooh, well, don't worry, it's not just them that does this. There's a few other animals that do, and scrub hares survive pretty much off eating their own dung every single day. So it's not something that goes well with us. But remember also that they have a very different diet to carnivores and to even omnivores. There's a lot less harmful bacteria in a vegetarian-based diet. These guys are eating only, grasses and leaves and branches, and so there's really not that much that's bad inside it. That's why we can, as people, pick up their dung and break it apart and look in it and kind of scrounge through it. If we wouldn't really do that with anything other than these big vegetarian-based animals. So, if you did that with something like a hyena or a lion, you're asking for a lot of trouble. You're going to end up in a situation where you're going to get very bad bacteria on your hand, and you're going to make yourself extremely ill if you go digging around in lion poop or something like that. It's much better for these vegetarians to be able to do it. So, very interesting. So cats, there's a very simple reason why the ellies do not get names, but the big cats do, is that ellies are not territorial, and if you would like to name 20,000 elephants, you are more than welcome, because I'm pretty sure that recognizing 20,000 individuals would be beyond the scope of 99.9% of us guides. None of us have got majorly big brains, and that would be very difficult for us to be able to sort out one from another. So that's pretty much the reason, is that they are in there's just too many to name them. It's like, imagine trying to name every single impala and recognizing every single one of them. It would be very difficult. Where elephants do get names is when it's big tuskers. So Fang, for example, she's got a name, and Short Trunk. Those are two individuals that we recognize very easily, and one has got very big tusk that faces backwards, and the other one's got the shortened trunk. But in the Kruger Park system, or any system, all the named elephants are either tuskers, so they're individuals that have massive tusks or the potential to have really big tusks, or they are individuals that have some sort of story behind them that's allowed that name to develop. But it's not something that we do very often, and that's pretty much the reason why is one, because there's too many, two, because they're not territorial, and that means that we might see this herd today, but we don't see this herd again for 6 months, and to recognize that specific individual 6 months later is very difficult. So, Faith, sorry, you're coming through very soft, and I missed the name. Sorry, Faith, I can't get the name at all. It's really struggling with it. But essentially Craig, can you hear that? Because I can't hear anything. Anyway, so the question was, I can't get the name, but the question was along the lines of, does the baby ellie have to eat its mother's dung, or can it eat any adult's dung? So generally you'll find with little baby ellies is that they only eat their mother's dung because they're normally very close to their mom, and so that makes it much easier for them to be able to feed off that and be able to, get the nutrients from her. It's much harder for them to go and get a situation where they find other individuals' dung. It's quick and easy just to go behind mom as she drops and feeds off that. And so I'm pretty sure that with the milk that she provides and her dung, it's probably a better recipe for them to be feeding off that. But there's nothing really stopping them from eating others. I wonder if it would be in any way different if they ate somebody else's, and whether it would be different if they ate male or female dung. I'm not sure to the answer to that, to be honest. There might be somebody that studied it, but I don't know. I've never seen a little baby eating another member's dung. It's only ever from their mum. So it must just be hardwired into them that they only have that trust relationship to eat their mom's poo, not somebody else's. But that's one of the young bulls that's on the fringes of the herd. The herd is slowly but surely kind of going over the road now. They're heading towards quarantine, and I'm hoping that the whole herd pushes onto quarantine and we'll be able to get them all together and we'll be able to see how many are actually here, because it is a nice size herd. There's still more coming from the northern side heading south, and so I reckon there must be at least 25 to 30 individuals here, maybe more, which is very nice. Always nice to have big herds. Good. Well, our ellies are still feeding and still being quite busy, but I think Sydney is still with Hosana, and I wonder if he's still as sleepy as he was the last time we saw him.
A beautiful elephant sighting, feeding and learning about the little ones eating droppings of their mothers. I am still here with Hosana, and Hosana, I can see he doesn't have any other plans this afternoon except having a rest. And I'm just thinking now that after this sighting, I'll be heading out and see if I can find other interesting things and come back at the right time, because I know cats later on they will be active. I will find him. He might go to the water hole. He's not very far away from the water hole. He's just a couple of meters away. So now I think I must have to give him time to rest and see if I can find other interesting animals. I did observe the belly. So I did look at the bellies. I can see that, chances of him doing some hunting are very much high. And then we can go to Tristan and see the baby elephants.
Well, Sydney, this baby elephant is having probably the poopiest day it's ever had, because not only has it been eating poo, but it walked behind Mom, and Mom just, lifted its tail and decided to plonk a big fat ball of poo on its forehead. So as you can see there is a horrible big stain of poo that's down her forehead. Now, I'm sorry, little one, do you need some toilet paper to clean that up? That doesn't look ideal at all. Shame. Can you imagine having somebody drop poop on your head? Not ideal. I'm sorry I'm laughing at you. I know it's not funny. But these things happen. Don't worry. We'll tell Mom off for you. So you can see they're right in front of the car at the moment. Shame, little one. That's a bad day. Like I say, when not only do you have to eat somebody's poo, but when it gets shoved on top of your head as well, it's not very clever either. And so it just goes to show, walking behind an elephant is never the safest place to be, because they just are uncontrollable in the way that they will lift their tail and deposit their dung. Yes, you are quite something. Should we stop talking about you? It really has gone everywhere. Not only is it on its head, but it's also all over its front leg. Shame. Poor thing. That's not a good day. Now look at this elephant on the left here. It's busy digging for a root as well. So Mom has gone down and pushed her trunk, and look, you see, she's got the tuber. Did you see she dug it up completely? Now hopefully she's going to take it out of her mouth again. You can just see it in between. Obviously there would be a tree right where we don't want it to be. Hopefully she's going to move a step forward and we'll be able to see it. But there's a massive tuber, and she used her tusk to dig it into the ground and then lift it up, and that's how she exposed that tuber and then took it into her mouth, which is very interesting, because we've been finding a lot of these tubers lying on the ground from the eddies. She's now got it between her trunk. Look, did you see that? Absolutely amazing. She took her trunk and she twisted it and then took her tusk and broke the root and was able to actually expose the nutrients on the inside, which is pretty incredible. Of course, she's now turned in the wrong way, and I've got Eddie's too close to me on the right-hand side to start because I'm going to startle them and push them away. But I'm hoping that she's going to turn again and we'll be able to actually see her do it one more time. But that was amazing. She basically used her trunk as a device just to hold it, and then leveraged with her tusk to break open that tuber and to get to the nutrients on the inside. And she's still busy using the trunk as just a place to hold and to keep things nice and stationary while she feeds, but there's a bit of that tuber in the curve of her trunk currently. Little baby, don't walk there. Have you not learnt your lesson? You're going to get poo on your other side of your head as well. Be careful. Well, lesson learnt, do not walk behind an elephant. And so while we contemplate that, let's send you back across to James, who I'm sure will have something funny to say about being pooped on for this poor little Ellie.
I don't think that I have anything funny to say about being pooped on. I'm not sure that being pooped on is a particularly funny thing, unless it happens to somebody else. Then it's utterly hilarious. And I told you the story a few days ago, actually, about a girlfriend I once had who was covered in hardy-dar dung after she gave them a fright, and I thought it thoroughly deserving on her part. I used the term karma when she came home that evening. What a wonderful day that was. One good day and years of bad ones. Alrighty, we have a tree here, and obviously it's a tree, you can see that, and I'm going to put it to you, the viewers. What tree is this? It is a Vachellia, obviously, so are you not getting any points for getting the genus right? I'm asking you because I'm slightly confused as to the species. I think it's one of two, and I'm really not sure which I'm going to go for. So, Judy H., if you're watching, you can have a guess. Vachellia what? While you think about it, I'm going to extract a little bit of gum from it. Len, you say it's a toothpick tree? Well, yes, I suppose it might be a toothpick tree. They also apparently used to use these thorns for gramophone needles, if you can believe it. That is not the official botanical name, of course. Here's a little bit of amber, for which these, what used to be called acacia trees, are famous. And it is this, of course, that all the bush babies are going for at the moment. So when we find them at the night, hopping between the trees, we know that this is what they're going for. I'll eat some. It's not very good. It's got a kind of slightly no-taste, bitter taste to it. There's another big lot over here, Seb. And this lot is being tended by ants. And I think it seeps this gum in order to attract ants. Because by having the ants here, of course, they will make a vague attempt to protect the tree from browsing predators like giraffes and impalas. Paula, it is not an acacia anymore. It's a Vachellia. Remember, we're not allowed to call our thorn trees acacias anymore. The Australians have taken that honour for themselves, which I think is greatly dissatisfying. But anyway, this used to be an acacia, but it's not a knob thorn, no. You can see it's got very long thorns. I think it's one of two things. I'll show you one more thing in the tree before I give you my theories, because you were not giving me any of your theories, which is making me very sore in my heart. Over here, in the middle of the tree, is what looks like a blue waxbill's nest. My only problem with saying what looks like a blue waxbill's nest is that when I pull out this feather over here, that is most definitely not the feather of a blue waxbill. It looks like the feather of a nightjar, perhaps. And I wonder if the blue waxbill that made this nest didn't find perhaps a carcass of a nightjar and use the feathers to line the nest for its little babies. If I was a little bird, I wouldn't mind being born a blue waxbill, because they have such a very comfortable nest. As if you're born a Wahlberg's eagle or something like that, well, you lie on thorns, basically. You may as well be one of those people who lie on beds of nails. Any guesses further there, Faith, about the specific name of this tree? Nothing, you've all given up. Okay, well, it is Sunday afternoon, I understand. I think that this is probably a Vicilia. I've lost the name now. The splendid thorn, whatever the splendid thorn is. What was it called? It used to be called acacia. No, it's gone. Anyway, a splendid thorn or a red thorn, a Vicilia girardii. And the red thorn is normally given the name because it's got red ends to the twigs, but I don't see any red ends really. And it's got very long thorns, so I think it probably is a splendid thorn, but it may well be a different variety from the one that we often see down on the river. There we are. Thank you. Robusta. That's exactly what I was looking for. Vicilia robusta. Was that you Googling, Faith, or was it a viewer? Emma Google. Well done, Emma Googling. You've done very well. I think it's a Vicilia robusta. They do come in a number of varieties out here. So that's what that is. No. Well, they sort of are, Nikita. If I break a thorn off and try not to impale my finger on it, there are animals that in fact will sting the thorns, and that stinging causes that wood inside to form a spongy material, which I think is quite nutritious. But that's basically wood. That's basically cellulose, and cellulose is extremely difficult for any animal to digest unless it has got cellulase in its gut or bacteria to help it digest the cellulose. And yeah, I don't think it's particularly nutritious at all. Just while I was talking there, if you look, oh, that's so sore, ow. Look over here, Seb, and you see there are a whole lot of cocktailed ants feeding on the gum. See that? Marvellous. Cocktailed because their tails are cocked. Fantastic. Alrighty. Set that up there. And we'll leave it at Vicilia robusta. I think Tristan is now heading sort of towards where we are. Let's go and find out.
I have got one of the very much interesting tree here, and I want to show you something. As this morning while I was out on a guided walk, there was a question about the elephant ring barking the tree. So now I want to show you the consequences of elephants doing that. So if you look at this tree, this whole area here, the bark is not there. Let me go around this tree and just to try and see how much bark is taken off. So I can see that it's quite a very large piece of this tree, but this tree is one of the trees that has narrowly escaped death, because when looking here, I can see that the skin is coming back, because this area here was not touched by the elephants, is the one which is now surviving this whole tree. So look at how big is this tree, and then the small part which is supporting this whole tree. But it is very difficult to tell if this tree is going to be able to survive. I can promise you now, the amount of nutrients which is taken from the ground up by this cap of this size, I don't think it will be able to survive this whole tree. So the elephants, this is what they do mostly now during the dry season. If you can check, the damage caused by the elephants during the dry season is not the same as the damage caused by the elephants during the summer season. Summer season, the elephants, they feed from these branches, and the branches by summer season, they are very much nutritious, and the leaves, they have got quite a lot of nutrients. So during the dry season, the trees, they will take everything and withdraw everything back under the ground by the roots. And these elephants, because they have been here for quite a long time, they are adapting quite a lot of strategies to overcome the challenges with regards to the dry season. And all they are doing now is to dig and uproot the trees and try to get hold of those nutrients. So now, by this season, elephants, they just cause quite a lot of damage. So now I will be moving towards the eastern side of the game reserve and see, I just want to go around tree house them and see if maybe there's anything going there to drink, because when the sun is very hot like this, chances of animals going to drink, they are very much high. So now I am heading towards Trees Dam. Let's go to Tristan and see some of the elephants already. They are starting doing what I was talking about, ring barking the trees.
Well, indeed, Sydney, they are stripping vegetation en masse, and they haven't been too destructive, I suppose, on trees just yet, but I suppose it's coming. As we get into more wooded areas, we'll start to see that same destruction that Sydney was pointing out just now. But really been a beautiful sighting of these ellies, and they must be one of the most relaxed herds I've seen in quite some time. They've been absolutely all around us all the time and have not even blinked an eyelid as they've been moving around the vehicle. We've had little babies up close, we've had moms walking right near us, and there's been no sign whatsoever of the herd even changing their behavior for 1 second. So super relaxed. Must have spent a lot of time around vehicles out here in the Sabi Sands. And you can see this female, she's about as round as she is tall at the moment, and I was just saying to Craig, she reminds me a bit of a hot air balloon at the moment, because she's got these little skinny legs that go down and then this massive body that is very, very round at the moment. So she's going to be giving birth, I would imagine, fairly soon. I don't think it'll be too much longer, and she'll be having her little one somewhere. Now, hopefully, it'll be somewhere where we can see it being born. That would be very cool. Siddharth, I'm not sure if pregnant ellies feed more. I suppose they would have to, wouldn't they, in order to keep the fetus growing and to make sure that there's enough nutrients. I suppose there would be a case for that. It would interest me because obviously with ellies is that we know in winter periods that their food intake goes up. So when it's summer periods, they'll only eat about 4% of their body weight, because during that period, most of the vegetation around here is far more nutrient-rich and full of water and full of all the things that they need. It's fresh, green growth, whereas in winter it tends to go up to over 6% of their body weight is what they feed on, because of how much less they're actually getting out of the food that they're putting in. And so I would imagine when they're pregnant, they might have to add a little 1% there somewhere, just to be able to absorb as much nutrients as possible and be able to provide for that little one so that it grows nice and healthy inside before it is born. It'd be interesting. I'm not 100% sure if it is the case. I surmise that there might be a slight increase in their intake, but I don't know, to be honest. Isn't that beautiful? Such a gentle giant. Well done, Craig. Very nice. So, Margarita, no, elephants don't go off by themselves to give birth. They will not go and find a thicket in order to go and hide and do what they need to. You'll see with elephants it's a little bit different. It's not quite the same as some of the antelopes. Normally with elephants they won't be far from the herd. They'll be quite close by. They'll give birth, and as soon as they drop, all of the other ellies start rushing in, and they'll form this massive circle around this little baby, and there'll be lots of touching and feeling and vocalizing. It really is an amazing thing to witness. So she'll break apart slightly. When we talk, she moves away, we're talking maybe 20, 30 meters. She doesn't go far from the herd at all. And the reason why she won't go far is because she has to be able to provide protection for that little one. But while she's giving birth, she's going to be very vulnerable. She's going to be, in a situation where she's squatting, she's trying to have this baby, and she's not able to actually defend herself as well as she probably would be if she wasn't giving birth. And so the rest of the herd is there as a protection, basically. They're there to keep everything away and predators at bay, and then they're able to come in and protect if there is a predator nearby, or just to stand guard in case. And so she won't move too far away. She won't also give birth right in the middle of everybody, because she does require a little bit of privacy. So normally just off to the edge, and then the rest of them come in as soon as she gives birth. As soon as there's that moment where the baby drops and you'll hear lots of vocalizing, then everybody comes in and investigates what's going on and welcomes this new little one to the world. Right. Now, I think I'm probably going to stay with my Ellies a little while longer, because they're about to go into quarantine, and it's going to be super beautiful to watch them ghosting through this winter grass. And so while I do that, let's send you back across to Sydney, who I think is with a bird now.
From the elephants to the lizard buzzard, you can see I've got a juvenile lizard buzzard there. And I want to tell you a story about this lizard buzzard. And this happened while I was still very young. I was a very good hunter, and I used to walk around with my kitties, the catapults, and I used to hunt these birds a lot. At one stage, I shot one of the lizard buzzards, and then he fell off the ground. When I picked up that bird, it was before he was still alive and kicking, and I thought he's dead. And this is what this bird did to me. Today, if you can check here, on my second finger, right finger, I've got a scratch here. This scratch, it was opened by the talons of this lizard buzzard. The talons are very sharp, and then I was opened here. Now, when I do any kind of fingerprint, I have got a lizard buzzard scratch there, and it's appearing all the time. So now it's becoming permanent. So it's just that it's difficult to see the talons there. So these birds, they normally target the lizards. So they normally target the lizards, and they also take some of the other some other rodents as well as part of the food. Lorena, a lizard buzzard, is what you are seeing now. It's one of the very beautiful birds, and this is my first sighting here in Djuma since I have arrived 3-4 weeks ago. And they are very much shy, so this is quite a very good sighting. Safari sounds, they call these birds make it's like clew, cuckoo, clew, cuckoo, clew, cuckoo. So it's quite a very interesting call, but they whistle it. They whistle it. You will hear something like. So if you hear it, then it translates it into a sound. It's like clew, cuckoo, clew, cuckoo. That is how they call. But these other small birds, they can be able to identify their calls. When they hear the lizard buzzard calling, they run. So they know they fly away. So now I'm going to be... So now I will be heading towards the Treehouse Dam. And let's see, James is out on a guided walk. Maybe James has got something already. Let's see.
We don't have anything just yet, but what we are doing is walking through a block where we've got tracks of Tundi, and we're pretty much backtracking her because we think she's left the baby in here. Also looks like this is the block from which Hosanna came, so it's quite possible that all three of them were together yet again. We don't think we're very close, or the little one is hiding because there's some impala just through here. So let's walk slowly along here. And the little one, of course, at 9 months old, as I've said to you before, is not very confiding with human beings on foot, unlike Hosanna was at the same age, and his sister Shongile. They just used to very comfortably hang around when we were there. I think it's a duiker. It's down through this riverbed. Duiker running there. Let's keep going. And so we just walk very slowly, quietly and carefully. Margarita, learning the animal tracks is not actually that difficult. There are not that many mammals here. Probably about, I don't know, total mammal count of around about 30 if you exclude the bats and the gerbils and things, which of course are very difficult to track. You can learn insect tracks and frog tracks and that sort of thing. Learning the shapes is not that hard. You can do it in probably a couple of weeks. The difficulty comes, of course, when you walk across an area like this, and now suddenly you don't have a clear track. You've got a very indistinct track of an antelope, but because this is sand, it's quite difficult to tell which antelope it was unless you have a lot of experience. So now suddenly your weeks of track learning have exploded into years of figuring out what different tracks look like in different substrates. So that's one thing. And for me, most people can make an almost desktop study of tracking, of track identification. Anyone can learn to do it. It really doesn't take a huge amount more than a keen interest, a good tracking book, and a bit of time on foot in an area like this. And then you can learn to identify all the different tracks. The real skill for me, and the skill that I profoundly lack, possibly I like to use the excuse of a slight visionary deficiency, but the real skill is following these tracks and to spot them in areas where, most of us wouldn't see a track. Someone like Herbert, who's been doing this for decades, is able to follow them. And I was writing a little article today on a chap called Renayas Matanjana and Nhlongo, who came up here about 2 years ago now to do a little tracking intervention with us. And he and his and my friend Alex van den Heever run something called the Tracker Academy. And there they teach tracking. But to walk with a guy like Renayas or with Herbert is to understand that this is, it's PhD level skill that these people possess. It's not something you decide that I'm going to learn to do one day and then you suddenly, a few weeks later you can track. It is decades of walking through difficult areas, trying to spot tracks, trial and error, endless patience. And so, there really is a huge scale. There's a huge difference between what we'd call a level 1 tracker and what we'd call a master tracker. It'll take you about 4 or 5 days of, we could teach you a level 1 tracking in a couple of weeks very easily. Level 2 take a bit longer because you have to be able to follow a little bit, and a level 3 is exponentially more difficult than to be a level 2 tracker. In level 2, basically what they make you do is you've got to identify some relatively difficult tracks, but you've got to be able to follow something like a rhino and find it. That's not difficult. Level 3, you've got to be able to follow something like a lion. I can't get through here. Let's go around this way. You've got to be able to follow something like a lion, which is a lot more difficult. And in a senior or master tracker evaluation, it's leopards. It's leopards, and it's leopards through difficult terrain. It might even be something as obscure as a steenbok through hard, rocky Karoo land. And that's decades worth of experience. I believe that Tristan has either broken down or he's just taking a very leisurely Sunday afternoon with his elephants.
I am having a leisurely Sunday afternoon. Why not? It's not, been a while since I've spent all afternoon with Ellie's, and so I thought it would be very nice to spend a leisurely afternoon with a really peaceful herd. But the reason why I also stayed a little bit is because I wanted to show you just how long grass can actually get here in Djuma. Often, it's difficult to give you a sense of scale, but there is an elephant, and you can see the grass next to it is about the same height as its eyes, maybe a little bit higher than that. This is not a fully grown elephant. This is probably about, I would say, maybe a 12, 13-year-old, but still it is incredibly tall. If I had to stand there, it would be well over my head, that grass, and so there are patches of this thatching grass, it's called yellow thatching grass, that gets that long. And you get some areas, if you go down into the central parts of the Sabi Sands, along Singita, Londolozi area, along the railway line, the old Salati railway line, you get a lot of this yellow thatching grass in those areas, and you it's big fields of it. You can walk there with somebody and you'll literally lose them within a meter because the grass is so high and so thick, and it becomes very difficult to see anything that's going on. And funnily enough, you find not many animals actually spend time in it. One is not very tasty at all. It lacks a lot of nutrients, and it's not really a nice species of grass for animals to eat. And two, you'll find that it's very difficult for anybody to actually spot anything. So predators don't use it because they can't see anything, and the prey don't use it because they can't see the predators. So it's a bit of a barren area. We're lucky here that we don't have too many fields of this thatching grass. We only have small little sections just off quarantine. It's quite strange actually how few areas we do have of thatching grass, and it's because we don't have many areas that are cleared or mowed or anything like that. It's in areas that are cleared that you'll see thatching grass developing if it's overgrazed and the likes. But very cool to have spent the afternoon so far with these guys. I'm thoroughly enjoying spending time with them. Tom, well, I suggest maybe it's time to invest in a lawnmower or a weed whacker if that your backyard looks like that, unless of course you want your backyard to look like that. Maybe you have a situation where you want to have long grass and have, I don't know why you'd want actually thatching grass, unless it's a farm area, I don't know, or maybe you like the wilderness feel in your backyard. But otherwise, if you don't, then a lawnmower or a weed whacker is definitely recommended. I can highly recommend certain brands. They do quite well. Craig is actually a very good weed whacker with a slasher in hand. It's an unknown skill of Craig's. He doesn't actually let many people know about this, but you give him a blade and he just slashes grass like a machine. In fact, in the Mara, Craig was very, very good at slashing grass, weren't you, Craig? Yeah. Craig is not impressed by me saying that he's a good slasher of grass at all, but it is a skill. I don't know if many of you have ever slashed grass. It's not that much fun. It here in Africa often involves basically a long blade that is plugged into a handle that you sharpen at the end, and the blade comes down and then it sort of angles out, not quite at right angle, but very close to, and that end gets sharpened, and then you have this swinging motion. And the best way, a lot of the Mara staff told me, is that you tuck one hand behind your back and you hold it behind, and then with a swinging motion from left to right you slash through the grass. And it doesn't sound like much effort. In the first few swings you think, oh, this is child's play, I can do this all day. But after 1 hour of slashing, your arm feels as though it's about to break off and your shoulder starts to get tired, and it really is quite strenuous work. And it amazes me how some people are able to do it. I've seen people do it for 8 hours straight without really giving it too much of a second thought, and it's not easy work at all, and not something that you want to be doing every day, I can promise you that. But it's amazing how effective it is too. That little blade being swung back and forth can shorten grass in a moment's notice. Brent actually is pretty good at it. I'm quite surprised how Brent and Scott, they both have a good technique and use it quite well. Brent's technique has faded somewhat over the last few years with his hip becoming a bit dodgy, so he's not quite as able to swing his hip around. Not that stops him trying to act like a hooligan half the time, but he's not as nimble as he used to be. So, Amy, no, the elephants won't use the grass to hide from predators. They really don't have to stress too much about predators, particularly in this area. Here in the Sabi Sands, there's so many other prey animals out here that it would only take the most hardened of predators to try go after an elephant, and maybe hardened and stupid would be another way to put it, because elephants are incredibly dangerous when they are ticked off, and they will chase anything that comes near them, particularly in big family groups like this. There's very few predators that would even remotely try get close to a herd like this, unless there was a very badly injured individual or a baby that was maybe stillborn or was deformed in some way. Then maybe they would try, but they wouldn't use grass to hide them. They would use their strength and their numbers in order to defend themselves against predators, and that's how they do it. There's been a video going around recently on various social media areas of a sighting just to the west of us a few days ago of wild dogs and hyenas having interaction and an elephant herd coming in, and you want to see just how angry elephants can get with predators, I suggest you take a look at that video, because they seriously lose the plot and they'll chase things all over the place and defend their little ones as to the best of their ability. And so they don't really rely on camouflage to protect themselves. It's why they also can walk out in the open, they can walk in the thickets, they can walk anywhere they want to, day, night, and they don't really have too much to worry about. In saying that, though, in other parts of Africa, and so in some areas where a lot of the other prey animals are not so numerous, you'll see that predators will start targeting elephants, particularly young males that have just been kicked out of herds. So those 12 to 15-year-old males that are no longer have the protection of the herd, they will then get pushed out by, or get chased by lions in particular, and sometimes even big hyena clans. So that does happen from time to time, but it's not that common. Now, I can hear francolins that are alarm calling, and I've heard them for quite long now. Normally a francolin doesn't alarm call for very long at all, but I can hear them just north of us still making a bit of noise. And I know that Tingana's tracks were somewhere around here, so I wonder if Tingana's not creeping around in the background of this herd. It's pretty much just to the back right of where that elephant is. So in that section up there is where it's coming from. It's just this low squeak from these francolins. It's the alarm call that they have. It could have been a bird of prey that came over, but it also could have been a leopard that's maybe moving around there. So I might go and investigate that now that our Ellies are having fun. I just turned over my shoulder and watched a little baby Ellie take a clump of grass and throw it into the air, and as though it just wanted to have fun. I don't know what it's doing. Craig, can you see that one over there on the right? So that little one in there is having the best time throwing grass all over the place, as you can see. Look. Do you think it's wanting to test the wind? Let's see if it's going to do it again. Is that Poopy? That's what I've nicknamed this elephant, by the way. The one that got pooped on, its name is Poopy. So we need to come up with some sort of marking that we can recognize it, and then whenever we see it, we'll just call it Poopy. Now, but this one is having the best time with this tuft of grass. It's been put on its head, it's being thrown into the air. What are you doing? Well, I suppose if one is bored, a big clump of grass for an elephant is tantamount to a PlayStation for a kid these days. Well, we've just been covered in gas of, well, yes, from a elephant that is upwind from us. It's a lovely smell that has drifted on towards us. It really has been a delightful experience being in this herd. Today we've seen all kinds of interesting behavior that relates to the rear end. And so while we contemplate whether or not we're actually going to stick around after being, well, farted on is the only way to put it, let's send you across to Sydney, who's got another very iconic animal from Africa.
So these giraffes, they are just very much relaxed, trying to have something to eat. There's quite a lot of them here. If you look at that giraffe nicely, the one right at the camera now, the one looking at us, when he's feeding, looking at that side, just check behind the ears. Behind the ears, this giraffe is bright white. Look at that. That bright white colors you are seeing there, it is there for communication. The whole body is camouflaged except there. So that is the part which is left for this giraffe to communicate. So giraffes, when they are feeding, they experience problems sometimes because these trees, some of them, they attract the ants. And the ants, they act as the tree's bodyguards. Big animals such as the elephants and giraffes, they always try by all means to avoid the trees which has got a lot of ants, because ants can be able to enter sensitive areas such as the nostrils. That is why when the giraffe is feeding, you will see him every time bringing out the tongue, and what he's doing now, he does that. You will see him trying to bring out the tongue and touch the nose every time. So that is when he is also trying to get rid of the ants. He have just shown us now. We're lucky to see that. So when he's feeding, some of the things, when they come to the nostrils, he must have to be able to take them out. Giraffe girl, giraffes are very much interesting. I'm very happy to see that you like them a lot and you are so happy to see them this afternoon. So look at that. That animal, each one of them has got its own stripe pattern. By looking at the stomach, look at that. The stomach looks very much big on that one. It's difficult to tell where I am here, but that one to me looks a little bit pregnant. These animals can be pregnant for about 15 to 16 months. So I cannot see very well, but from here where I am, that stomach is looking having something inside. So these animals, they give birth while they're standing. They're like the elephants. The little one has to hit the ground as a wake-up call in order to kickstart their lives. You see, the line you are seeing now, that mane, which is going up to the head, when that mane is flat, sleeping, it means the giraffe is experiencing challenges. Normally is when the giraffe is lacking of calcium. In other words, you can be able to tell from the mane, that mane can serve as a gauge in order to tell the health status of these animals. W. James, yes, there is quite a lot of different giraffes occurring here in Africa. But here in Djuma Game Reserve, we have got only one species, which is the one that you are seeing now. Not too sure what exactly this animal is, but now I'm going to pull forward and see if we can have a better sighting, as now I have just lost the sighting just now. So for us to see them better, I want to try and go around. I've got one just right in front of me there. It's trying to avoid me as well. So it's going to join the family. So a group of giraffes together is called a copse of giraffes. Yeah, they are like cops, you know, they can see. They are very much observant. So I'm just going to try and cross this drainage line and get to the other side. You can see that giraffe there is trying to leave behind the droppings. So you see the giraffes, they don't stop in order to excrete the droppings. They defecate as they're moving. That is why their droppings, you'll see them just scattered everywhere. So I'm just going to try and position myself. So now, while I'm going to the other side, let's see James out on guided walk. Let's see what he's experiencing.
I'm looking at a knobthorn tree. Remember we had a little chat about the vachillias and the acacias. I just thought I'd remind those of you who are interested in this sort of thing. This is a knobthorn, and it is no longer an acacia anymore either, but it's not a vachillia, it's a Senegalia. And the Senegalias are the ones with the little hooked thorns, as opposed to the white thorns, the long white thorns. This has got small hooked thorns, and so it is not a vachillia, not an acacia anymore, but a Senegalia. And this is a great example of a knobthorn. Sebastian, why is it a great example of a knobthorn? Because it has a lot of knobs. Exactly. Come over here and see the knobs. There are all of the knobs. Knob is a good word to say, everybody. If you're feeling a little Sunday bluesish at the moment, say knob a few times. You'll feel much better. Knob, knob, knobthorn. Now, these knobs are used extensively in traditional medicine, and for one of those things is toothache. One of the things that they use them for are for toothache. And you break off a knob, crush it up, and put it on the sore tooth, and apparently it takes the pain away. I, unlike Sydney, have been a victim of Western medicine in many respects during my growth, and so I haven't tried this. I don't know if it works or not. Sydney will be able to tell you if it does. Interesting. I think Sydney has actually got the most amazing balance between sort of traditional and Western medicines. I find, obviously, much of my experience with Western medicine has given me the impression that we totally over-medicate. We don't treat sickness, we treat symptom, which is very different from what happens out here. Bob is also a nice word to say if you're feeling sad. Bob, knob. Bobby. I don't think thorns have ever been used for fishing, really, except to make fishing nets or fishing baskets. People used to make fishing baskets out here, but the thorns they don't hook, they can't be bent, and so they're a bit brittle to be used for fishing. With a line. I suppose you might catch a very small fish on the end of a very small spear with one of these thorns, but I don't think they've ever been used for fishing. Fishing here with fishing baskets made from sometimes thorny branches, and then they're placed in a current where there will be fish. Otherwise, fishing done here with poison. You can take the fruits of the balanites tree or the torchwood tree, you can crush those up and make a sort of solution with them, pour it in water where they're fish, and the fish will float to the top, belly up. That means dead. And apparently you can still eat them because as long as you gut them properly, the poison doesn't taint the meat. Now here we have another example of a knob thorn. See if I can break one of these off. I did have a toothache once, and now I don't have the tooth anymore. Did you know that, Sebastian? I had to take the tooth out. It's too sore. No, I didn't do it myself. No, I had a professional do it. I must confess, of all Western medicine's achievements, in comparison with traditional medicine, I would imagine that the advancement of local anaesthetic substantially more impressive in towns. Anyway, I can't break them off. They are quite favoured by elephants. Righty, let's carry on through here. Yes, I wouldn't fancy having my tooth out. If you were giving me the choice between having my tooth out in Sydney's place or in Johannesburg, I'd go with Johannesburg. There were many other situations I'd choose to be in Sydney's place, but not that. I'm just going to have a small snack. Delicious. This is a very fresh Ziziphus bush. And very unusual because, of course, why is it growing now in the driest part of the year? I don't know. Also another nice word to say, if you're feeling sad, Ziziphus. So if you can say Ziziphus, Bob and Knob, you'll feel better. Rosalind, I have not seen a lot of snakes around here, ever. I've seen a lot of snake tracks. You must remember that snakes dislike us more than we dislike them. Well, some of us dislike them, and so they just stay away from us. And so although we see their tracks all over the place, they stay away from us. All right, now what we're doing at the moment, apart from sort of wandering along, finding little bits of pieces of interesting flora, is that we are walking the northern and southern sides of this depression here, this gully. And this gully quite possibly has in it Tlalamba. Tandi came wandering through here. We've had her tracks. She's turned around and gone out. She doesn't have the baby with her, so baby is very likely somewhere in here, and that's why we're wandering around here. Alrighty, we'll continue on that mission, and let's go across to Tristan, who is now doing the most amazing thing, driving.
I am driving, James, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability. So far, better than I have according to my previous record, which was falling out of the car. So if I haven't done that, Craig, are you laughing at me? Craig is giggling behind the lens. Do you find that funny, Craig? Did you enjoy that when I fell out? Yes, you did. I believe so. So anyway, Craig thinks it's funny that I fell out. Maybe that's because I told him that he's a good grass slasher. Anyway, we've left our ellies. As you probably saw, there was ellies on both sides of the road as we were driving out. So we've decided to give our ellie herd a break from our presence. Also, we were a little bit over being farted on by a certain individual who has got a very dodgy stomach, and the wafting gas that kept hitting us in the face because he was upwind got a little bit much. And so we've decided now to go and investigate what these francolins were squeaking about. Maybe we'll find a very dozy duke somewhere around here. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping he's walking around, and if nothing here, then we'll head off towards the east and maybe see if there's any sign of Thandi and Little One, given that James has got the tracks. Gary, no, not necessarily. I mean, winter has been an interesting winter because it's very warm today. It's very pleasant and doesn't feel at all like a winter's day, other than it's very dry and a bit windy. But otherwise, it's actually quite nice. So we're not in a heat wave, although Louise told me today earlier, so she said that it's going to be quite hot this week, and there's going to be periods where it's going to go over 32 degrees, which is very warm. So that would be considered warm for winter, but we're very lucky. Oh, there goes some Dwarf Mongoose, Craig. Can you see them? We're very lucky that we have a fairly temperate winter, although this winter has been extremely cold early in the mornings. We've had a few mornings where we've really had to wrap up and endure quite cold temperatures. So it's going to be interesting to see if it was just a cold phase that we had, and if it's going to just disappear, or if we're going to have a sort of break from the cold, and then all of a sudden the cold is going to come in. Be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm never one that's good with weather, and I suppose it's a good job to be a weatherman. I feel like it's the one job where you can be wrong 90% of the time and no one tells you that you are failing at your job. It's just, okay, well, it didn't rain today, so what? It's not one of those things where if you... Exactly. So Faith is agreeing with me. She says there's, performance review must be quite difficult with a weatherman. So you said it was going to rain and it didn't. Oh, well, I guess that's what it is. And I'm just messing around, because I actually know that guys that do weather are very, very intelligent people that do a lot of studying, and they look at all kinds of charts and graphs and maps and all kinds of things to be able to make the predictions that they do. And obviously we know with nature nothing is really that predictable, and so it's not really a surprise that they don't get it right all the time. But they do put in a lot of effort, and in no way am I, what would be the word, diminishing their profession and making it sound like they are no good. I just think it's funny that you can be wrong so often. And does anyone actually shout at them? I want to actually know, is anyone a weatherman? Hashtag Safari Live if you have done weather, or you're a climatologist, and whether or not you get into trouble if and when you get it wrong when it comes to predicting weather. Because I don't know, I'm wondering. What do you think, Craig? Do you think people get shouted at if they get the weather wrong? I don't know. Well, okay, Craig. I don't know either, so I guess we're in the same boat today. So we just came to Gallagher Pan quickly because I thought maybe, just maybe, Tingana might have made an appearance here and had himself a little drink. But there is absolutely nothing, as you can see. It is barren as barren can be. There is just a puddle of water in the middle of that barrenness, and it has not attracted the leopard like we had hoped. No good. Anyway, talking about attracting a leopard, it sounds like Sydney is driving, and I wonder if he's on his way back to Hosana.
I am now heading back to see if there is any developments with regard to Hosana's resting. Maybe Hosana is up now trying to look for something or going to the waterhole. So I'm just going to pass by there and try and see if there is any other development. I am heading there now. I'm just very close by. I'm just about a minute away from where we left him earlier on. So he was right on the other side of the dam here. So I'm just gonna go over the dam wall and see if he's still right there. I am not seeing anything yet. He moved. He's not there where I left him earlier, so I've got to... Oh, there is he. I can see him now somewhere in the middle, so I'm just going to go around and see if we can have a better sighting. He's very much relaxed at the moment, so we're going to have a good sighting now because he's not lying down flat anymore. He did not move for a long distance. He just moved a little bit. Miss Marvin Garrett, that is true. He's posing. You can see how he's lying there. His leaning position is right towards the damn camera. So there's no other activities except Hosana here. All the animals, they are now trying to avoid this area. Maybe they will come back later on. But it seems like Hosana is prepared to challenge anything coming here. Look at that. It seems like he was just waiting for me. That's quite a very beautiful cat. So I'm just gonna try and follow him now. Michelle, yes, he is very much aware and is very much alert because here is by the open areas whereby anything can just happen. So I just want to try and catch up and get him again as he just moved towards this direction. I can see him from here. I'm not too sure. He's trying to look for something. I'm not sure if he's aiming at birds or something there. Beautiful. I thought he was going to attack something. So you can hear the birds already now, they're giving signals. They are alarming about his presence. So these kind of birds, they do help us a lot. While out on guided walks, they tell us the presence of these cats. So you can see now he is lying down flat and is matching the grass. Jonathan, that is very true indeed. Hosana is getting bigger and bigger every day. You can see that Hosana is eating a very good meal every time. So those birds that are just making noise here, most of them, they nest on the ground. Look at that. And this is beautiful. This is very much, you can see that it's interesting how cats entertain themselves. So most of these birds making noise here are those birds nesting on the ground. And one of these birds I'm seeing there, the one which is doing tsit, 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 that is one of the very most aggressive birds. I will just show you that bird now. That one is called the Blacksmith Plover. These birds, they've got something which is called a destructive behavior. When something is walking towards their nest, if it's one of the predators, such as birds, other birds, you will see they will try by all means and fly as if they've got a broken wing, just to try and confuse the predator to come for an easy meal. They act as if they've got a broken wing, and the predator concentrate on that and think about getting that big meal. And then when they get there, they fly away, which becomes then very difficult for the predator to reallocate where they were, which was maybe very close to the nest. Look at Hosanna now, done with some entertainments, going up. He might be going to the dam because it's not very far now. This is very beautiful. So soon as he gets up there, I'm going to try and see if we can have a better visual. No impalas here. Normally these areas, impalas are feeding here because it's more open and they can easily see the predators coming from far. Today, he's just by himself. Look at that. It's difficult to even figure it out that there is a cat in those grasses. So this cat is very clever because it's using this dam to attract the prey. So I think here is where Hosanna is killing quite a lot of animals. So I just want to try and follow him and see if we can. I just want to try and follow him and see if we can have a better visual. Because I can see that now from here where I am, it's not easy, it's quite difficult to see him. So while I'm looking for the better position, let's see what James is doing with the ash bag.
Yes, I'm displaying my ash bag. My ash bag is out. My ash bag is out because we think there are elephants nearby. Good. Wind is blowing well for us, still from the northwest. We heard their ears going. Come, let us go. Herbert's just looking in here. We had more tracks of the leopard, we think. And we think she headed in here, but we think that she may actually be avoiding us, that we've, kind of made too much noise as we've come along. Anyway, elephants will be magnificent on foot. Probably in this riverbed. The wind is good for us, blowing into our faces. Margarita, in some places there is over-harvesting of medicinal trees. Not in this area, though. I mean, this is a game reserve, so people aren't allowed to come onto this area and just harvest trees willy-nilly. So, no, not really here. But in the commons, I guess, in areas of communal lands, yeah, absolutely. Many trees and many species have been denuded through traditional medicine. Okay, we've got them. There we go. This will be a nice sighting because we've got the height afforded by this riverbed. Here's the first view. And we'll carry on and get a closer look now. Thank you, Herbert. Thank you. That was me giving Faith a thumbs up for an action broadcast. That's the one. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome on this magnificent Sunday to the Western Kruger Park. We're standing here on foot with an elephant. My name is James Henry. Sebastian Rombi is on camera, and we're sitting with a gorgeous elephant bull. Now he's sitting there, just feeding. He's not sitting actually, he's walking. I can't see any others. And it is the most glorious late winter's afternoon here. Please ask us any questions you'd like to. We're going to sit very quietly and just enjoy being close to the world's largest land mammal. There are in fact more of them. I can hear another one further forward from where he is. I'd say that that bull was probably in the region of 30 years or so. He's a big fellow. And as yet completely unaware of our presence, we'll try and keep it that way. We're perfectly positioned for wind, not so ideally positioned for light. If he does look this way, he'll see us because the sun is shining on us. But we are between him and a gully, and so we're quite safe at this stage. Jeremy, it can be a little scary being this close on foot, but you know, I've been working out here for a long time now, and while I always have a very healthy respect for these animals, the terror I used to feel when seeing them on foot is now dissipated, and now I feel much more wonder than I do terror. We're also in a pretty good position here, where we're safe. There's this gully between him and us. He's obviously very calm. The wind is in our favour. There's lots of cover for us to move to. So we're not in a threatened position. And likewise, he's not going to feel threatened if he does see us. He'll probably just move off if he doesn't like us, or he'll just stay doing exactly what he's doing now and ignore us. The chances of him turning around and coming towards us are very slim indeed. Kayleen, it really depends. As I say, I've said this before to a few people, you know, being on foot with animals means that you don't ever get quite as close. Well, you try not to get quite as close as you might in a vehicle. But it's not really about that. So in a vehicle you can sit and they'll mill around and do whatever they do almost without paying you any attention, so you learn quite a lot about their behavior. This is a different kind of experience now. And this experience is one of connection with the wild to me. Seeing an elephant bull like this on foot makes me feel my insignificance. It makes me feel really plugged into the wilderness. And that's why I like seeing them on foot. That's not the best view of an elephant you'll ever have on a live safari, but it's a view of an elephant that we're getting on foot, which is tremendously, tremendously special. Now, I will just tell you that there are francolins screaming their heads off behind us. There may well be a leopard around there as well, which would be quite exciting. Mina, yes, absolutely. Elephant trunks have got lots of muscles in them. You'll read things in anecdotal texts that say 100,000 different muscles. I don't think it's quite that. It's probably more like 100,000 muscle fibers or something like that. But there is a lot of very complicated musculature in an elephant's trunk. They are able to extend them concertina style, curl them all the way around both ways. At the same time, they are heavy, and so they have to maintain muscle structure without becoming stretched and floppy. Now, some elephants do get something called floppy trunk syndrome, which is very dangerous for them because it means they can't use the trunk properly. But that's probably neurological rather than muscular. What's the word I'm looking for? Rather than muscular. Muscular. Yes, there we are. Phew. But there are very fine muscles. Now, Margaret, at the moment I would say that elephant has no idea that we're here. You may be able to hear the wind blowing, and if I show you which way the wind's blowing, this is my ash bag. It's a sock full of ash. You can see that The wind is blowing from the elephant to us, and that means the elephant will not smell us. And their eyesight is good, probably about as good as ours. Maybe they're a little bit more myopic than some, but their eyesight is generally pretty good, and so I wouldn't say that if he turned this way he wouldn't see us, but he hasn't turned this way. We might try a little bit of a walk along here and just see if we can get a nice, better view. We're going to go around here. You just go around there, Seb. I'm going to go through here. Try not to catch the inside of my thigh on this rather heavy thorn bush. Okay, we're all right. If you look up there, Seb, you can see that there's a tree about to be felled, either by an illegal wood chopper, or most likely by another elephant. In fact, you can see the other elephant now. A grey ship moving through the sort of greenish-grey bush. There's probably another bull, probably a little bachelor group of two. We can move around a bit more, Seb. Come round this way. Liz, from the look of those tusks, I would have said they were about 4 feet long. I think they're quite long. It's a big tusker. It of course doesn't make him any more dangerous or less dangerous. There we go. He's a big bull, that's a big adult bull. I think he's older than 30. Okay, now he's seen us. Just watch him carefully. What you'll see is him lifting his head. He's turning to the left there, and now he'll probably, if he doesn't turn all the way around, he'll turn the other way and look at us through his right eye. Watch now. Now he'll turn. There we go. So he's seen us. That's not ideal. From our point of view, we want to view these animals so they don't know that we're here. He's not in any way irritated or threatened. He's just suddenly turned around and thought, ooh, there are a whole lot of people there. And so now he's just going to melt off into the bush. That was very special. Wonderfully relaxing, connecting Sunday afternoon experience. Thank you for joining us. If you want to watch the rest of our drive, you can just go to YouTube. Go to Safari Live, and well, we've got somebody sitting with a leopard. Sydney's sitting with a leopard, and Tristan is looking for other leopards, so it's quite exciting. We'll see you next time. Alright everybody, we're going to move out of here. There were some Franklins going mad up there. We'll go and check those out. Sydney's still with Hosanna.
Hosanna is very much relaxed at the moment, and I've seen he has been looking around. It seems like there where he is normally his hiding position, because he's aiming at this side where I am and much more on the other side. So he's just very there trying to be camouflaged and see if maybe anything is going to come out. But he's checking all directions. So today I have seen that Hosanna is very much clever and is utilizing this dam in order to attract the animals for him to kill. It's not easy. Look at that. It's moving very quickly, and the ears as well. So this is very much beautiful. I'm just going to look at him and see what he's looking at, because what I have learned about Hosanna is that if I don't look at him, I won't see what is coming. Whenever there's something coming, he will let me know. He's very much active early today. He might be hungry. Look at that. He is trying to be camouflaged here. It seems like he's got a mission. Thailand, that is true. Hosanna is very much beautiful. You can see the roseate spots on him and the pink nose make it worse. This is a beautiful animal. So while I'm waiting here for anything to come, I am going to share and go to my other colleagues and see how the smaller animals are doing.
Well, we have the training track at the moment. As you can see, there is sprint training happening right now with our little dwarf mongoose grouping. They're all running around like absolute hooligans. It's a massive business of mongoose that we've got here. There's lots of them running around all over the place like absolute hooligans. They've been running up and down. Been sitting here for about 10 minutes and just watching them go from one side of the road to the other, up and down the road. So it's almost like a training track this afternoon, and everybody's getting their little bits of exercise in. It was quite funny though, watching them all across the road. It seems as though they've now disappeared for good, but let's see, maybe when we roll back down there we'll see them coming back out again. But that was quite cool, wasn't it? Nice to see our smallest land-based carnivore. They actually haven't been too many around of late. I've been looking out for them, but I haven't seen that many. I just every now and then just see them scuttling into the grass, but not as many as I thought I would be seeing this time of the year. Wonder what they've been up to on the burnt area. They probably all smell like smoke. They're going to go home and their mothers are going to be very upset because they're going to have little black feet that are going to leave. Can you hear them? Now, it's not every day you get to hear these guys. Look, they're playing. You see that? They're having a little wrestling game. What are you guys up to? I suppose it's the end of the day, and it's that time when everybody has a bit of extra energy. Dixon, it is funny how they run, isn't it? I always love these guys when they run around like little hooligans. They kind of back end bounces up a little bit. They almost have a very similar run to an otter in some respects. Otters also have that kind of slinky bounce that they... I don't know why they have it like that. I suppose maybe it's because their bodies are quite long. They end up doing it. But that was very cool just to hear them. It's not, like I say, an animal we get to hear very regularly. You know, obviously we hear things like lions and leopards sawing and roaring and those kind of things. But these guys, they've all come back out again. I wonder if we sit here for long enough if they're going to start playing again. But look at this. It's just... You can see why they're called a business of mongoose, because it's never quiet. They all just go all over the place all the time. Wonderful though, isn't it? This is the thing, you know, we often focus on big animals, but it's so nice to sometimes just spend time with little guys like this. They're the cutest little things, and they're always up to something, so there's lots of antics to watch, and I thoroughly enjoy actually spending time with Dwarf Mongoose. Here comes another one. I wonder if that one's going to get pounced on. I also love how everything's at 1,000,000 miles an hour and not just, you know, you think that some of them would walk down the road, but no, you can't walk down the road. One must run at full speed in order to get a good training out of this, and I believe a lot of you are loving this. I think it's very cool. It's one of the better dwarf mongoose sightings I've had in a long, long time. I wonder if it's because we sat here for so long. We've been here for a long time. We've been maybe 15 minutes. So, sorry, Faith, if you can repeat that again. I didn't catch it. Roslins, yes, they do look like weasels a little bit, don't they? A very small version of a weasel, but they've got that similar shape and gait and bounce to their running stride, as well as similar sort of, for me, they seem like they have similar characters, although there's a lot more of them. Are you going to come say hello, little one? This is very cool. I thought they were all going to run away at one point, but they've all come out. Now, sorry, Faith, I didn't get that. If you can, I got the question, but I didn't get the name. If you can just repeat it for me. It's coming through very badly this afternoon. I don't know. Craig, did you hear that? Craig didn't really get it either. Craig's mumbling as well, so it's not sure which one's worse. Is my earpiece that sounds like it's being shoved in a toilet bowl and underwater, or if it's Craig's mumbling. I don't know which one's harder to understand at this stage, but I didn't get the name, so I do apologize. But the question is, what do these mongoose prey on mostly? So dwarf mongoose will mostly go after... Oh, hello little guys, are you going to stay there for us? Let's see if they will. You see them all there, Craig, on top of the mound. So they'll prey on mostly small insects, so they'll go after beetles and grubs and those kind of things. Also lizards. They'll go after birds' eggs quite regularly. They'll even take the odd snake as well. So reptiles, insects, eggs, those are pretty much what the dwarf mongoose targets mostly. Obviously at this time of the year it's quite difficult for them. They don't have nearly as much food availability as they do in the summer months, but they still manage to find what they need. They'll probably lap up a few termites at times, go digging around through various types of dung for all kinds of grubs and little maggots and mites and all kinds of things that they can eat. But they are busy little animals, aren't they? Very, very cool to see. And the light is just getting perfect now. It's that late afternoon golden light, and these little guys have actually got really beautiful details on them. We often just look at them and they kind of look brown and drab, but they've got a beautiful eye color. It's almost this sort of brown honey color that they've got, and it is very pretty. When they sit in a place where there's a bit of sunlight, you can actually pick up that eye color, and it is really a very pretty little animal to see. So I quite like them, and when they're in good light they're very cool to look at. But there we go. Deirdre, you say they remind you of ferrets. I suppose ferrets, weasels, mongoose, they're all kind of very similar in their structure, and I think that's why we're reminded of all of them when we see these guys, is because of their long bodies, longish tails, and the way that their face is shaped. They've got that quite pointy face. So it is very similar of ferret, weasel. I'm trying to think of the name of the other one. Marten, that's it, a little marten. You get those in Europe as well. They're very cool little things too. Right, so I think we'll leave our dwarf mongoose family to carry on with their day, because they're all bouncing around all over the show, and I think they're a bit kind of nervous of our vehicle at times. They get into the road and then they run off very quickly. Right, well, we're going to carry on looking, try to see if we can find any sign of Tingana or Tundi. While we do that, let's send you back across to Sydney and the ever so beautiful Little Chief.
I have got Hosanna here, and now Hosanna is talking a decker. I'm not going to talk loud because I might spoil the chances. Hosanna is on a mission now, and there is a decker. That animal is not very far away, so I can see Hosanna is just waiting for the decker to come closer and closer. So I'm just waiting to see what is going to happen here. We might see something very interesting today. Rosalind, I didn't copy the question very well, and here where I am, I don't want to make any mistake now, because I can see that anything, the leopard's teeth, I am not too sure of the millimeters, but they might be ranging from 7 to 8 millimeters. So there is a decker trying to approach the waterhole, and this leopard is just waiting here. So I'm just waiting to see what is going to happen. Behind me, I even got a lot of impalas coming. All these animals are not aware of the presence of Hosanna here. Paula, I have seen leopards swimming. I have seen leopards swimming. They can be able to swim. Sometimes they even swim to the other side of the dams when wanting to catch animals such as crocodiles. They do swim. So here now, I am just waiting. Something might happen. I can see I have got two different animals on a very close range. So I can't see where the decker is, but this decker is somewhere nice and close. Joy, the decker is just on the other side of Tingana. It's just that I cannot move at this stage because I saw that this decker is so very much inquisitive. I don't want the decker to detect the presence of Hosanna. So I'm trying to see where the decker is, because the last time I saw the decker coming, it was earlier, and the decker was coming much more. I can see the decker now is running away. Maybe the decker managed to pick up the presence of this predator. There is the decker. The decker is avoiding this direction now. That is the decker Hosanna was aiming at. There is quite a lot of impalas behind me, also heading towards this direction. So it's just that Hosanna is not yet aware about the presence of impalas here now. His main focus was on Deika, and not very far away from him, there are some impalas, a head of impala coming towards this direction. And they can be able to take down the baby kudus, and sometimes they even take down the baby eland. I saw a baby eland, which is the largest antelope, dragged up into the tree by a leopard before. So here where I am, I can promise you there is quite a lot of prey for this leopard today. So the chances are very much high, and I am so very much excited. So it's just that the wind direction is not on his favor, but I will see how he's going to manage the situation. Ailen, I never saw that happening, but if the leopard can be able to go for a dangerous animal such as a crocodile, the chances of going after the hippo, they are very much high. They always want to take chances, and on most occasions, they win. So now I will be waiting to see any development. Let's now see what James is doing on guided walk.
Well, I'm walking on guided walk and attempting to do some guiding as well, funnily enough. I'm just rather overwhelmed at this stage at the magnificence of the evening. It just could not be a greater privilege than it is being out here on foot today with the warm temperature, gentle northwest wind, the great Herbert Causer walking point out front, greatest French Gabonese Air Force pilot on camera, and the end of winter in sight. Elephants, magic light. It really is just very special indeed to think that this is what I do to call work. This is what work is for me. It's very hard. I hope you all feel a great deal of sympathy. Now let's stop and have a look at this tree. Wait, I'm receiving a question. Oh no, I'm not receiving a question anymore. This is a leadwood tree, and unusually for the leadwood tree, this particular one has got very green leaves. Normally they're sort of silvery blue-green, but this one has green leaves. And you can see that it has had a bit of a traumatic time from elephants, but that it has got through the worst of it. And it was almost certainly going to become one of the giants eventually, but it's going to take a good 100 or so years before it's a proper giant, and then it could last another 900 or so after that. That's how long they live for. Remarkably resilient. And the harder the wood, of course, the greater the chance of them surviving elephant attack. I think that's probably why the woods out here have such hard woods. MVP, I don't know. I wouldn't have imagined so. Those cats walk along with fairly bare feet. They don't wear shoes very much, so they must be standing on thorns all the time. And you do sometimes see them trying to pull thorns out of their feet, but no, I don't think it's a major issue for them at all. And they certainly, I've never seen one of those cats trying to sharpen their claws on a knob thorn. But interestingly, I was watching some monkeys the other day. More accurately, I was chasing them out of my room where they had got into my incense stash. Must be fairly sort of, I suppose, hippie monkeys or hipster monkeys. They like to have incense around them. Maybe they have Buddhist monkeys. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that I chased them out of the room and they jumped onto a combretum tree, which is thornless. I climbed up the combretum tree after them, and they then jumped from the combretum tree onto a knobthorn tree and just ran along the branches. Now, that would be completely impossible for a human being to do. Sebastian's actually shaking his head. And how they don't tear themselves to pieces on those trees, I just don't know. Apparently, I was reading today in my book on hormones and stress that there are certain hormones that are secreted by the body that will deaden your pain receptors. So if you're stressed enough, you can accept and take pain far more than you can without that stress. So hormones will deaden the nerves at your extremities. I don't believe that I stressed the monkeys to that extent, because I've seen them just sitting in knobthorn trees very happily, just walking around in them. So I can't explain that. Yes, the mental picture that you have climbing after the monkeys, finding it very funny, was quite funny, because obviously the monkey realized I was utterly incompetent once I got into the tree after it. And in fact, I got stuck, and it took me quite a long time to get down from where I'd got up. There's a tree going right outside my window, so I climbed up and jumped onto it in great terror and thought, I'm going to catch you. And the thing started laughing, basically. Margarita, I have walked as little as 1 mile on bushwalk. We've walked as many as, I think the most I've walked is 12 kilometers. I think on one walk we did almost 12 kilometers, which is how many miles? 12 k's is around about 9 miles or so. And I guess today's walk will probably be about 7 kilometers or so, almost 5 miles. So not very far. There's a lot of stopping and starting and looking and appreciating. investigating bits and pieces. Watch out for that one, Sebastian. That one will take your eye out.
Thank you.
Yes, I do what I can. On we go. Now, remember when we stopped earlier for Vaccilia robusta, and I said maybe it was Vaccilia girardii. I'm convinced now that it was Vaccilia robusta. You can see the redness on the twigs here. You see this red bark, or reddish twinge to the bark. You can't really see it there, can you? Yeah, a little bit. And the bark just looked a little different from this. So I'm going to say that that's what we had there, but I could be wrong. Gorgeous. One of the last trees that have any ants on them. And they'll maintain them, of course, throughout the winter. Let's go back across to Tristan. No idea where he is, no idea what he's doing, no idea what he's going to do. Maybe he'll tell you.
Well, James, it's a secret. You can't tell what I'm doing. No, I'm just driving, James. I'm doing what I've been doing for a vast majority of the afternoon, because you told me that I was being lazy and sitting in one place and not doing any work. So now I'm driving on my head because you've been pooping on me from a dizzy height for not looking for animals. So that's what I'm doing. No, I'm just driving around now trying to find any sign of anything really. I've actually had quite a nice afternoon. I've thoroughly enjoyed my social animals that I found this afternoon in the form of ellies and little dwarf mongoose. They were quite amusing, and so anything that comes will be quite nice. Let's actually go to Buffelshoek Dam. That's where we're going to go, and we're going to go see if Scuba Steve and Snorkel Sarah are back. I wonder what Snorkel Sarah has done with Scuba Steve. Maybe Scuba Steve has been told that he had to invest in some new property because it was beneath Snorkel Sarah to be living inside Buffelshoek Dam. No view in Buffelshoek Dam. Unfortunately, it's too depressed in the bowl. So Snorkel Sarah doesn't like she likes a view. She likes a bit of razzmatazz, and so I think Snorkel Sarah probably would be quite happy at Chitwa, where she can gaze upon the big lights of the Chitwa city and have a view of the hill with all the animals. The Buffelshoek Dam is just it's too enclosed. She feels claustrophobic here, and that's maybe why Scuba Steve has had to up and leave his favorite haunt. So I believe a lot of you are quite entertained by Scuba Steve and Snorkel Sarah, and well, it's all James Hendry really that's created Snorkel Sarah and Scuba Steve. He was the one that brought them to life and has given them these personas, and so I hope that he comes back, because Scuba Steve is quite the man. He's as dull can be, and is about as boring as any hippo ever was, but he's ingrained himself into our hearts and lives, and I think James is quite sad actually that Scuba Steve is no longer a part of the Buffelshoek Dam experience. And the Buffelshoek Dam experience can be one that is very quiet very regularly, and so it was nice to have that boring hippo sitting doing nothing when you came here. It was at least something to look at, unlike this afternoon where there is simply vast expanse of water and dust and vegetation and very little else happening. There's not even really any birds around, is there? No. I was hoping there might even be a heron, but alas, no heron. No anything really, no terrapins. Oh well, it's okay. Buffelshoek Dam was going to be quiet. Now, I'm going to try and see if I can see anything around this eastern area. So while I do that, it sounds like Sydney, he's not struggling at his dam like I am, and he's got something that is drinking some water.
I have got the impalas here with me. They are drinking some water, and Hosanna is just here. He's hiding somewhere. Hosanna is just here hiding somewhere to try and catch one of these impalas. Is somewhere camouflaged in those grasses. So here where I am very close to any action which can take place at any time. This is getting very much exciting. I just want to see what Hosanna is going to do, because I saw he's hiding not very far away from where these impalas are. So where I am now, I can be able to see both. You can see these impalas, they don't seem very much free. They're just checking everywhere. So I don't want to make any noise here. I'm just gonna be quiet for now so that we can all see what is going to happen if anything happens. Grateful Dead. That is true. It's just that I cannot talk right now because I can see, otherwise I'm gonna spoil everything. I can see that these animals are picking up my voice and they are becoming very wary because this leopard is just right next to the dam. So every time when they pick up my voice, they concentrate on me. So now I can see that Nyala is heading towards the other side of the dam. This leopard is not very far away from where we are. He's very much close. I'm just going to show you now. He's somewhere in this grass, is right here. right there, that black dot in the middle of the grass is a leopard. So I'm not too sure what the leopard is thinking now, but I saw that he was stalking these animals. So the distance between this leopard and that nyala is approximately less than 70 meters. It's not very far. So all the impalas are done drinking now. This nyala is part of the impala herd. I'm not too sure what this nyala is trying to do. Maybe he wants to feed there or to do something. Jonathan, that is very true. These ears, you can see they are moving every time. It seems like this nyala is very much suspicious. I'm not sure if maybe the nyala is trying to pick up my voice as well as the predator's voice, the predator's noise at the same time. This nyala went past the water hole. I just want to see what the nyala is looking for here. Just trying to sniff something. Angelina, it is not that very much deep. Anything can just happen here. This water is not that very deep. The Hosanna can be able to survive this water. It's not deep at all. So Hosanna is just very much close to the mill at the moment. So I can see he's still there, moving the ears every time. So the nyala did not even drink. But to me, the nyala, he was looking very much suspicious. So you can see Hosanna is just there. Not clear at all. So all the impalas and the nyalas, they are done drinking. Maybe now he's gonna stalk them. I can see that he is trying to raise up the head to see what's happening. You can see now the movement is different. He is aware that they are now away from the dam. Veron, that is true. The nyala survived. This nyala did not even drink any water here. To me, the nyala was trying to investigate something. So the only chance for Tingana to get hold of that impala head is to follow them. Dixon, you are very right, because the nyala went closer to the dead tree and sniffed the ground. But apart from that, that nyala was suspicious from the beginning. And here is where Hosanna was just walking around earlier. Tina, I can agree with you on that. Yes, Hosanna has been here for a while in the area, but today, before us, He didn't go and lie down there. But you know, the cats can always leave behind their scent, because their scent marks, it stays there for quite a long time. So these animals, they know, they can be able to detect the cats very easily. So I'm just going to sit here and see what is going to be the next step for Hosanna to do after missing that chance. I think what confused Hosanna is that there were 4 impalas at the beginning which went towards the direction where he went for hiding. Then he left the waterhole to there. And when the other ones comes, it was already far and he did not want them to see that he is there. He made a mistake by following the 4 which came first. So you can see now that the impalas, they are now moving towards that direction. So these impalas, it was very difficult for them to smell the cat. But let me tell you something. The wind direction was coming from where the leopard was lying. But it did not tell the impalas anything about the presence of Hosanna. The wind was always blowing from Hosanna to the impalas. But still, that didn't help the impalas to detect Hosanna. So while I'm waiting here, James has got a beautiful sunset. Let's see the sunset from James.
The sunset is magnificent over here. As you can see, it's gone down. A sun has set on another week out here. I know many people think of Sunday as the first day of the week. That's obviously ridiculous. I just wanted also to say, of course, that while, yes, maybe those Nyala smelt Hosanna, I'm of the opinion, of course, that these cats clean themselves precisely so that they are not smelt. And we've had those cats so close to us, lions and leopards, and you can't smell them when they walk past. Obviously, antelope have got more sensitive noses than ours, but if you compare them with a hyena or a wild dog, which really hum quite phenomenally, they really don't compare. Something else I wanted to say, on the subject of smell, I thought I'd just go through the smells of this evening. Because it's been so warm, there's obviously a lot more smelly thing in the air, I guess. And normally when it's cold, we don't have quite the same smells. And there's a lot of sort of straw, sweet straw smell from this dry grass. A little bit of, what will we describe it as? Let's say, I normally describe it as potpourri. There's a very mild sort of spiced scent from the combretum leaves, if you can keep them out of your nose. And then there's that scent of African dust, which I think many people would understand if they've been out here. And certainly when I was trying to describe it the other day, Seb from behind the camera said, it smells of Africa. Mm-hmm. Not with quite that accent, but you'll get my drift. Mm-hmm. So that's what it smells of to us. Alrighty, we're heading bound towards where Hosanna is. We're obviously going to try and avoid him. We don't want to freak him out. But we're on our way home with the sun set. We don't want to be out at night. And this is another good time for me to say to you, of course, we refer to Hosana in the most friendly terms. We refer to him as our sweet little chief, our favourite cutie pie, leopard, whatever it is. It's now, after the sun has gone down, once it's dark, that you really would not want to meet Hosana on foot. You know he's a wild leopard, and we must always just remember that. We mustn't lose our connection to his wildness, because he's a wild fellow. Wild, crazy. Good. See if we can't find you one or two more things before we disappear off air for good. Look what happened here. Let's try and uncover forensically what occurred in this region. I think this was impala, everybody. A whole lot of impala around here that were obviously having a bit of a lie down. No, you know what it is, it's not impala. It's warthogs. It's warthogs digging and having a sort of a bath, if you like. And then also, there have been impala that have been marking territory. It's very interesting. They dug quite a big hole. Paula, in terms of smell, perfume doesn't really matter. Human beings stink of human being, and animals know that smell. Perfume, if anything, would disguise your human scent, and they may smell it and not register that it is a threat. So, you know, I know we like to think of ourselves once we've got out of the shower as being smell-free, but to me assure you, to any animal, we absolutely hum of human being, and it's not a smell that anything out here appreciates at all. If you really want to disguise your smell out here, Paula, when you arrive, find a couple of fresh buffalo patties, line them up and roll in those, and then you will smell like the bush, and you will be able to approach animals much more closely than we were able to today. I have yet to accept that I need to make that sort of sacrifice out here, so I'm not going to roll myself in any fresh buffalo dung, if it's all the same to you. Alrighty. Let's have a last look over here. Good grief, old and decrepit. And we can just see there are beginnings of the new growth of the Strychnos madagascarensis plant. Now this Strychnos madagascarensis plant in my hand was chopped by a human being in an attempt to bush clear this area. So they were chopped out because they were so thick here that they were making it difficult for animals to move through the area, and it was just getting thicker and thicker. You can see that it has had no effect on the actual life of this plant, and all it's done is make the base that much thicker. And that's a bit distressing, because it does mean, of course, that this plant is going to grow back thicker and stronger. It's a bit like pruning, I suppose. So if you really want to clear an area of trees like this, you've got to come and pull them out by the roots or poison them. And obviously you don't want to be putting poison in a wild area like this, because who knows what other effects it will have. So, interesting that, and I think probably largely a function. People say there's too many elephants in this area, we need to get rid of some. They're destroying the trees. Much better idea for the elephants to come and do this job for you on a regular basis. I don't think there are too many elephants here at all. Alrighty, Tristan, still looking for Tingana. As the sun goes down, we'll bid you adieu from the bushwalk.
Well, I am, but I want to know from James before he goes anywhere, so Faith, you need to ask him this. Did he walk on Central to start his bushwalk this afternoon? Because if he did, on my right-hand side here is a track. Now, I'm going to try lean out of the way, but there should be, I'm trying to see where it is exactly. This here is a footprint for what looks like James. It looks like a size 7, which would be about James's size. So it's facing, the heel is at the back away from me, and then the toe coming forward. But just off to the right, you'll notice that there is a leopard track that is on top of that said footprint, and the track of what looks like Tingana. So if James walks here this afternoon, then Tingana has walked on top of his track during the course of the afternoon, but I'm not sure that is exactly James's track and whether or not they did walk here during the course of today. Interesting, but it does cut off here. It goes kind of northwards into this block towards Gowrie Cutline area. So I'm going to just have a little look around. It actually comes back again, so it's back on the road, walking still in a westerly direction. This must be Tingana, but where he's gone I'm not quite sure. We'll just double check and see. Faith, any word from James whether he walked on Central this afternoon? So James has already turned off his radio, therefore we can't find out if he is the one that walked on Central this afternoon. Okay, well, let's try. We never know. I drove here just now and didn't notice that the tracks were on top of the footprints. I saw the footprints, but I didn't notice Tingana's tracks on top. I saw his tracks coming off of Nyala Road South, but I thought they might have been from this morning because Rex told me he had tracks for Tingana this morning. But like I say, these tracks for whoever walked here look as though they are from this afternoon. I suppose it could be this morning's bushwalk tracks. Who was on bushwalk this morning? Craig, do you know? No, Craig was also not working this morning. Can't remember. Kate, well, no, because if he was stalking / tracking James, he's unfortunately walking in the complete opposite direction to the footprints that were going. So James's, or whoever's footprints, were going that way, and this leopard is going this way. So it would be the opposite direction, I'm afraid, and therefore it would be a very poor effort from Tingana if he was tracking James. More likely that he's moving about in this area tracking Hosana or Tandi than anything else, although he's off for both of them because obviously Hosana is at the dam and Tandi is on the eastern side, quite far away from this area. I wonder though where Tingana ended up and which way his tracks went. Maybe they went into this block here and he's just been sleeping in the block. It might be a good idea just to go and check around the big jackalberry. He sometimes comes out of that area and we might get lucky. In fact, that's where he came out the other morning with Klalamba. That's where he appeared out of nowhere. So I wonder if he's maybe done a repeat performance of that. I don't see any more tracks on the road, so I think he must have gone into the block and maybe cut northwards. There's the big jackalberry on my right hand side, so I'll go check there quickly. The thing about Tingana is this is a good time for him now. We're at a time where will start waking up and start moving, and I'm hoping he'll call, because if he calls, well, it'll be very easy to find him then, if given we're in the proximity to actually hear him calling. But let's just have a little scan from this jackalberry tree. There's a little track that goes this way that I can just stop at, and we can have a little scan on this drainage line to see if I can see anything. Nothing at the jackalberry itself that I can see, no. Let's have a look. Let's go down and have a little quick squiz down here. This is often a good place for our leopards. So we often do find leopards that are moving about in these areas. They like it in this drainage line, even though it's so big and open in this section. If you just go slightly north of here, it becomes closed and small, and the perfect place for a leopard to spend his day or her day resting. So we know Tandi and Klalamba use this quite regularly, and Tingana as well. I've seen Hosana here, I've seen Tamba here, so it's a good place for a number of our leopards. Strawhead, the dry terrain by far is much easier to track animals in. It becomes dusty, it becomes soft soil, and there's far less vegetation, and so tracking is 99%, well in fact 100% easier than it would be in the wet season. The wet season can be very difficult to track, particularly if the tracks are before the rain. Then obviously you don't see them at all. So dry season is great for tracking. Now is the best time ever to track animals. As we start to go into August, September, it really does get absolutely the easiest that you can ask for, and it's why everybody loves this time of year for tracking. In summer, it really tests your skill a lot more than it does in the winter months. No sign of Tingana, I'm afraid. I was just hoping by off chance he was sleeping somewhere here and I could pick up his tracks, but I don't see any sign of him anywhere here. So I'll keep looking and keep scratching around. I might just stop and turn off for a while and listen. While I do that, though, Sydney, who has no such problem with trying to find his animal, is still with Hosana, and I wonder what Hosana is going to be up to next.
Hosana is now after the daycare. You can see Hosana and the daycare, they're not that very far apart. He's looking right at the daycare. So the daycare unexpectedly approached Hosana, and the time Hosana discovered the daycare is there, it was late. Then the daycare became suspicious and decided to move towards that direction. So you can see that Hosana today is really on hunting mood. He's looking at the daycare and something else. I am not too sure what Hosana is trying to do, because he's concentrating on the daycare and there's also something that is checking on the other side. Maybe it's something that I cannot see from where I am now. He's looking at that side and he's also looking at the daycare on the other side. So the daycare decided to disappear, but his focus is still there. James, the cats are very much interesting, and they normally catch just by this time. When it's dark is when there is enough cover for them to hide. I can see that daycare is also still on the other side. Look at the daycare now from the other side of the dry riverbed. You see the daycare is moving and Hosana is looking at the daycare. So you can see that it's not that very far away where this daycare is from Hosana. Look at him there. And he's just looking at the daycare. Jen, normally the cats, they come, they approach, and when they are at about less than 40 meters is when they start running. But animals that are so camouflaged, such as the leopards, they don't run such long distances because animals can come too close and they catch. So the spots on the leopard helps them to reduce the distance when it comes to the prey. Prey always come very much closer than them. So you can see that he's looking after something. The ears are moving very slowly and he's not moving at all. The body is not moving at all. This is amazing. So this is very much beautiful. You can see now, look at that reflection of the sunset. Nice and pink. So you can see it is about to get dark now. Maybe is when he will take a decision to go after something. So Lady Starfire, yes, Hosanna is a beautiful cat. I do enjoy Hosanna sightings. I always want to spend much time with Hosanna. So at this stage, I can see that Hosanna just decided to go disappear. So I'm going to try by all means and find him again. Joy, I didn't copy that call. What I heard, it was just the Francolins. I didn't manage to pick up that call. So I'm just gonna try and reallocate Hosanna. So I'll be moving to the other side of the dry river bed. Maybe from the other side we might get better visuals. So Hosanna just got disturbed and then decided to go up to the other side. I don't know what exactly irritated him. So I will be heading towards the other side of the dry river bed. But let's go to Tristan. Maybe Tristan has got something interesting at the moment.
Unfortunately not, Sydney. My afternoon has petered out a little bit after starting so nicely. It's gotten a little on the quiet side and I haven't found too much more. It's obviously too dark now to do any intense tracking of Tingana. Sort of, if we'd spotted his tracks earlier we might have, but it's now a little bit too dark, and I sat for a bit on Gari Cutline, listened, didn't hear any sign of him moving, no alarm calls, no vocalizing, no anything. And so I fear that he is still asleep wherever he may be. Maybe he had a long day of walking, so no sign of him yet. So we're still just going to try and stay in the area in case he does vocalize or something like that, or pops out on one of these roads. As we were saying earlier, it's the perfect time for him to start waking up. But there's this beautiful pink light that is kind of coming out at the moment. We're getting this beautiful pinkish color in the sky, which is very pretty as we go under a whole bunch of knobthorns that are looking very wintry. Now, what's interesting is, I actually only thought about this today, is that we're in July now. It is the 29th of July, yes. So knobthorns, as far as I know, have not flowered yet. And I was thinking about it today, that they often do flower in mid-July, towards end of July, and so it would have been nice to have seen them start flowering. I know Steph said he had some knobthorns flowering at his home in Hoedspruit, which is just north of here, not very far. So I wonder if ours are going to start flowering very shortly. It would be nice to see some flowering knobthorns again. They're always so pretty when they come out and add a bit of color to our drab winter, although they're not exactly a bright color, are they? They're kind of creamy color and look very much like a lot of the grass around here, but they add a lot of life to the knobthorns. A lot of things go to them, like birds and the likes. NASA too late? I actually don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know what the oldest living tree is in South Africa, or where it is, to be honest. Craig, you know? Nope. Craig doesn't know either. I honestly have no idea. It's an interesting question, though. I feel like I should know it, and now I feel very bad that I don't. Oh well, I'll have to go and research it and get back to you, but I honestly don't know what our oldest living tree is, to be honest. in South Africa. It would be nice to find out exactly where. I'll try and have a little research quickly and see what I can find. I would imagine it might be a baobab or maybe a big yellowwood down in the Knysna forest. I'll have a little look quickly and see if I can find any information out about it. While I do that, let's send you across to Sydney, who maybe knows something that I don't.
I have got Tingana now, and I've got Hosanna, and Hosanna is now hunting. I can see that Hosanna is after a duiker. You can see how he's standing there. There is a duiker not very far away from where he is at the moment. So just a couple of meters away. So I just want to see his approach direction. I think he lost the duiker. Right where he's going is where the duiker is. So you can see how he's concentrating. So this is beautiful, Ray. So the oldest living tree in South Africa, that is quite a very difficult question to answer. I am not sure which species is that. However, I would suggest that the fig trees can also grow very old. Yes, we also got the lead woods which can go for thousands of years, and the baobab, so it's difficult to tell. Not too sure, but I will investigate. Getting back to hunting, Tingana is right now on a hunt. Hosanna is right now on a hunt. So, and I'm gonna pull forward. I'm gonna pull forward now so that we can have a better visual. So it is very much difficult to see where he is. I can see him now, but he's camouflaged where he is, heading towards the prey. He is trying to recover all the opportunities he lost while he was by the dam. So he's somewhere hiding here, slowly approaching. You can see he's just in between the bushes. There's quite a lot of pearl-spotted owl calling. So it seems like there is quite a lot of duikers here, because where I am, I can see the second duiker as well going up. So he might be successful and get a meal tonight. So it's quite very difficult to see the prey at this stage. But I saw the duiker went somewhere between those trees, just behind those trees. I can't even see where Hosanna is hiding now, but he's hiding somewhere not very far away from where I am. By this time of the night, these kind of cats can be very much camouflaged. I was hoping to see a kill this afternoon. It was very interesting seeing this beautiful cat attempting to hunt. So I just want to try by all means and reallocate his position because I can't see him at all here. So it's just somewhere behind this termite mound, between the termite mound and those thick bushes there. So I'm just gonna pull forward and see if I can have a So now, and I am going to be looking for this leopard again. Let's see, Tristan has got an answer with regards to the biggest tree in South Africa, the oldest tree in South Africa.
Indeed I do. So I did a little research quickly, and I believe the oldest tree in South Africa is, well, I said two different trees. I said baobab and yellowwood, which was my guess as to what the oldest trees would be, and by a country mile it is a baobab, apparently. Now I'm not 100% sure if this is verified, but there is a baobab in Gravelot, which is not actually that far from here. It's north of Hoedspruit, so between here and Paleboa, which is an entry gate into the Kruger National Park. If you want to look on a map, there's a place called Gravelot, and Gravelot has got a baobab in it that they reckon is about 2,000 years old. Give or take 500 years, because of course you can't be too close, and 500 years is not a lot, apparently. I don't know. I feel like they could get closer than give or take 500. I mean, there's a big difference between 1,500 and 2,500, but anyway, that's what they reckon is this 2,000-year-old tree. And then there is behind that a yellowwood. So I think it's a broad, what's large or something leafed yellowwood. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but the yellowwood is second in a mere 600 years old, give or take 10 years. So I feel like there's a massive discrepancy here, and I want to know why. Because how is it that they can get a 600-year tree and they get 10 years, and then a 2,000-year tree there's a difference of 500 potentially? Doesn't seem right in my mind. I feel like I'm being lied to in some way, and I don't know how to figure it out. But anyway, that's the idea. Apparently that's roughly the figures, and whether or not that is 100% accurate, I'm not quite sure. It was a brief little search that I did just to try and have a little look quickly, but they say that that's where they are. So I would imagine both of those were the trees that were going to be oldest. The yellowwood is, funny enough, the widest tree that has been measured in South Africa. There was yellowwood that was measured at 7 meters in girth, which is absolutely monstrous. And second place went to the baobab, which was, I think, just over 6 or just around 6 meters in girth, which is obviously a very big tree. I mean, you would be able to almost live inside something like that. So quite interesting and amazing trees that we've got. We've got some really, really beautiful trees. Unfortunately, I think as is the world over, a lot of the most iconic and biggest trees have been lost in many areas due to deforestation and just general abuse of our tree environment. It's not ideal that in many parts of the world, and it's not only South Africa, that large tracts of indigenous bush that contain really beautiful specimens of trees have been destroyed. You just have to look at places like Borneo, where palm oil plantations have destroyed massive areas, the Amazon rainforest, Congo Basin, lots of big trees being cut down all over the place, which is a shame in a way. You know, there's something about a massive tree that it evokes some sort of hope and some sort of wonder in you. And even as a kid, you know, you take a kid to go and see a massive tree, and you can see that their mind kind of works overtime as they sort of wander up and look with these big eyes at this massive tree that's all. If we didn't have those massive iconic trees like that spread across the world that could inspire, you know, all kinds of people to take an interest in the natural world, and particularly, you know, the tree world. I'm not a very big tree person, but obviously a lot of the guys are. So never too late. You say seeing the oldest tree in South Africa is now on your bucket list. Well, it is, isn't it? I was also thinking the exact same thing just now. I thought it would be quite nice to try and go and hunt down the biggest tree. I wonder if it's on a place where you can actually go see it, or if it's on a private farm somewhere, or what the situation is with it. I don't know. Maybe we can find somebody that knows whether or not we can go and see the oldest tree in South Africa. Be cool if you could. Generally, those big baobabs are actually open to the public, and especially if they have something like that, I would imagine that there will be somebody that will be allowed, well, some way of getting to go and see it. Okay, well, we're still looking around for Tingana. I came past Gallagher Pan in the hope that he might be here. Sorry, little fork-tailed drongo, but no sign of him. So we'll keep having a little scratch around while we do that to send you back across to Sydney with the still hunting Hosana.
Hosana is still much hunting here where I am now. I can see still his concentration is on something. Not too sure if the daycars are very much close to him because it's getting very dark, which is making it very difficult for me to see. But now you can see that it's moving now. So these cats can be very much camouflaged. So I'm just going to try and pull forward so that we can have a better sighting, because I can see now he is trying to go that way. Not too sure if he's trying to avoid us or his intention is after something on that side. So let me try and read the situation and see what he's planning to do at this stage. Yeah, I can see where he is on the flick camera. So you can see there that is just in the middle of these bushes. Very much difficult to see it on a normal camera, but look, by the flick camera is very, very much clear. So this evening, Hosana is not even interested on marking any territory. All he's doing is going after the daycares and the impalas. So he's very hungry at the moment. So you can see now he's not concentrating on the prey anymore. He's just walking away. Not too sure if he gave up. There is he listening again. Hosana does trust his ears a lot. Beard, thank you very much for the comment. Yes, by the FLIR, Hosana is very much nice and clear. Look at that. You can even see the tail moving. So it has been very much stunning following Hosana. Bobby, I haven't seen any other leopard with such a beautiful personality. Hosana is my first one, and I am really starting to fall in love with Hosana. It's quite a very beautiful young male with a very beautiful, nice pink nose. So this Hosana is now becoming my favorite. Yes, I love Tingana a lot, but Hosana is getting there. And how he does things is amazing. Nice and clever young leopard. So I'm just going to now drive and see. I'm going to go further and see if we can have another chance with the beautiful cat. So Hosanna challenged my voice this afternoon as I had to whisper all the way from the dam until here where we are, because I didn't want to disturb. I could see that the prey were concentrating on me, and also Hosanna was concentrating on me, which was very much difficult for me to communicate nicely with you. There is he, nice and beautiful. It has been a lovely afternoon, spending much of the day with Hosanna. It has been very much amazing, and thank you very, very much for all your comments and questions. Let's meet again tomorrow at 6:30.